And for more on this, we'll now talk to Joseph Busha, Group CEO of JM Busha Investment Group, and he joins us via our video link. Joseph, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. I mean, just looking at that working relationship, one would ask, what do you make of this working relationship, especially with the task of combating illicit financial flows?
Good evening, Mr. Tani, and the viewers of SABC. So certainly, I think, America recognized the importance of South Africa. I mean, South Africa is one of the largest trading partner on the continent, very strategic partner in terms of what they want to do, whether it's economic, access to African markets, a getaway into the rest of the continent, and certainly the combating of illicit flow of funds. Remember, former President Mbeki also mentioned that quite a lot, during his tenure in terms of the illicit flow of funds out of Africa. And given what's happening, in the region, whether it's in DRC, Mozambique, with terrorism and acts of banditry, America is quite concerned to remain quite close to South Africa, so that no funds are flowing out of South Africa, to be able to fund these terrorist activities, not only on the continent, I think across the globe, given what has been happening, over the last a few years. I mean, starting with the war in Russia and certainly the war in Gaza. So South Africa is very strategic and key for the US as a partner, to combat, the funding of terrorism act, and hence, that act with South Africa is a signatory to that.
And, looking at this working relationship, one would even ask, how can South Africa actually benefit from the US in its efforts of combating financial illicit flows?
Well, South Africa will benefit certainly hugely. Remember, we benefit from AGOA. Recently, I think, some of the lawmakers in the US wanted the USA and SA relationship, bilateral relationship, be reviewed. We benefit hugely in the sense that, the AGOA provides duty-free access to American market for South African goods, including agriculture, textile, and certainly South Africa being the biggest producer of platinum. That is a massive, I think, market for South Africa. The trade between the two countries is around 20 billion. South Africa basically exporting more than 10 or getting a little bit more than 10 billion in exports to the US. So it is very, very important, I think, that, South Africa is part of that, to be able to combat that. But also, the introduction of cryptocurrencies basically then calls for this partnership so that, we can, these illicit outflows. There have been issues of gold mining, the Zamazamas. There's also issues of tobacco, that crosses into the borders of South Africa and so on. And so South Africa is a very, very strategic partner for the US and certainly for Africa.
And when we talk about this, one cannot deny and talk about the dark cloud that hangs over South Africa, and that pertains to being grey-listed. And looking at this direction in which the country is headed into, what would it take for South Africa to be officially removed from grey listing? Would you say that this move is actually one of them?
It is one of them, but remember, I think there were 8 points where South Africa was found not to be satisfactory when we were grey listed, I think, about 2 years ago. And this is really certainly one of them. So this is one of the acts, I think, towards implementing and towards showing that, there is reduction in that type of risk where there is illicit outflow and inflow of funds that could be used to destabilize the world. And certainly increase the acts of terrorism. I think, we had some challenges which the government held very well. The police and our security services held very well. Remember the times of Pagad and those two twins again that were allegedly being recruited by ISIS. So South Africa certainly, I think, is very, very important. And this is the very first step to ensure that we satisfy all the remaining outstanding issues on the grey listing list.
And what does this mean now for investors, now that South Africa is moving towards this direction of trying, to remove itself from being grey listed?
It is very positive, I think, for investors. As I said to you, just looking at our relationship with the US that was tested after SA took Israel to the International Court of Justice against Israel. There were a lot of talk and so on, and uncomfortable discussions. But I think our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Naledi Pandor, and certainly the President himself, did very well to allay any fears and to talk really what is South Africa's position. So South Africa basically relies heavily on the US. We have invested through the pension funds extensively in global markets, and the US remains a leading developed economy. Remember also South Africa is part of BRICS, and hence its relationship with America would want South Africa to be closer to it, given investments influence in the BRICS nations.
And how important is this move for South Africa, especially during a time where the economy is stagnant and, there is much needed investment in this country, and, for it to move towards fighting the illicit financial flows in this country? How important is this move right now?
Very, very important, as I've said earlier on. Remember also, there is a commitment to give about $9.6 billion to South Africa towards its transition to renewable energy or cleaner energy by the US and its partners. Energy is the elephant in the room for the country. We need that, going and certainly sort it out as quickly as possible, so that we've got enough energy to be able to power industries and so on. So as I said, the relationship is quite huge. You have Ford that just invested over $1 billion into the car manufacturing industry in South Africa. So if South Africa can show that they are not being used as a conduit or as the place where funds for wrong things are flowing into and out of the country, it does just augur well for the country in terms of its economic growth. And in terms of obviously, trade between itself, the US and possibly the EU as well. So it is important that we show leadership in that, because it's not also in our favor in any way, to allow illicit flows of funds and into the country and out of the country through the wrong channels. Remember, our banks or financial system is considered to be one of the best in the world, and we've got all these global companies, Citibank, JP Morgan, all operating in South Africa, which just really shows how trusted our financial system is, and hence you don't want these negative discussions to come to the fore that we actually very weak or we don't have tight control systems, and that it is easier for wrong traders, wrong illicit funds to flow in and out of the country.
Joseph, thank you so much for that insight and your contributions and your time this evening. That is Joseph Busha. He is Group CEO of JM Busha Investment Group.